Hello, my name is Simon. Welcome to Why Is That, a free speech platform where we explore big ideas and the controversies of our time. Hello, beloveds, and welcome back to another episode of Why Is That? I'm very excited. I've got an upcoming big announcement. Not this show, maybe not the next one, but the one after that. Stay tuned. For the show, join me going down the rabbit hole looking at the contraceptive pill. Did you know it was classified by the World Health Organization as a Group 1 carcinogen? It's right up there with smoking, being exposed to radiation, or asbestos. And yet, this information isn't being made available to women who take it. Why is that? I mean, I've been looking into the health side effects of the contraceptive pill. I mean, something so commonly prescribed to women, most of them have no idea what it can do to them. I mean, it's just not cancer as well. There's a whole lot of other health things that can go with it. So if you or somebody you love is taking the contraceptive pill, please, please, please listen to all of this for the sake of their health. And of course, being a social commentary show, we'll be talking about the implications socially about, giving young women and young girls this poison pill without telling them all the dangers. It should be the most common knowledge. What's behind the silence? Is it ideology like feminism, or that it's a multi-billion-dollar industry that has just swept it under the rug? I will be drawing parallels on when we found out smoking was bad and all lawsuits. But to start the show, think way, way, way back to 2016 to the American presidential campaign. Who won again? Oh, yeah, it was Trump. One of the most hilarious things of the whole campaign is to try to discredit Trump's campaign manager, Steve Bannon, who headed Breitbart. Hillary Clinton read Milo Yiannopoulos, the titles of some of his articles. Let's go down memory lane.
He hired Stephen Bannon, the head of a right-wing website called Breitbart.com, as the campaign CEO. Now, to give you a flavor of his work, here are a few headlines they've published. And I'm not making this up. Birth control makes women unattractive and crazy. Would you rather your child had feminism or cancer?
Actually, the result of the Twitter poll that Molly Loppers did, that most people would rather that their child had cancer than feminism. But I think the funniest thing was that she just drew so much attention. So millions and millions of American voters went to Breitbart.com to see what it was about. She strengthened the enemy. But the reason I played that is the Milo Yiannopoulos article that was titled "Birth Control Makes Women Unattractive and Crazy," which he goes into the health things. I mean, it's a clickbait title. That's why it's like, what? Let's click on it. But, it details to people the health problems that come from it. But that's not the most interesting, because you can write off Milo Yiannopoulos as he's a conservative male, even though he's ragingly gay. But what happens when a hardcore progressive says the same things? I refer to Japanese-American actress Anna Okana, who's quite talented. She made a video, Why Women Are Crazy. Of course, being radio, you can't see the visuals, which are there for comedic effect. But here we go.
I've had an epiphany. Hallelujah. I've discovered why I act crazy. I have a vagina. Just kidding. But I have had people tell me my entire life that I'm crazy. And I'll be the first to admit, okay? I can be emotionally unstable with mood swings, cry for little to no reason, and I do suffer from frequent bouts of irrationality.
Why aren't you a violin?
Well, now I know why. Birth control. Yes, birth control. 6 months ago, I went off birth control because I had to switch to a new one. But there was this period in which I just wasn't taking it. And I was calm and collected and in control. And at the time, I thought I'm older and just more mature now. No. Because when I got on my new birth control, I found myself feeling all the feelings. I realized that it followed along the timeline of when I was on and off BCP. It makes sense, right? Because birth control tricks your body into thinking that it's pregnant so it won't get pregnant. So you're basically walking around like an eternally pregnant woman.
What do you mean it's never coming out? What? I mean, what? Where's the pizza?
It is such a relief to know that it's not me being emotionally immature. It is literally all the hormones that I am ingesting. It helps me keep perspective when birth control tells me,
Oh my God, doesn't that just make you so sad or just like angry? I just feel all the feelings and you're just like, no, I'm not gonna feel that way unless you want me to.
If you want to go watch it and see the whole thing, you can go to Why Women Are Quote Unquote Crazy by Anna Akana, spelled A-K-A-N-A. What can you say to that?
Isn't it funny?
I honestly don't know why I'm making a show about birth control so political. I'm just in a good mood today. But that clip is Anna Akana explaining her own personal experience about being on birth control and just not having emotional control and not knowing why, as you heard from her, I don't know, we'll call it testimony. You know, she thought maybe it's just I'm immature, you know. This does not sound like somebody who's been warned about the effects of birth control. In fact, she had to work it out. Did you know the same hormones that go into the pill are also used in hormone replacement therapy, used for women who go through menopause? They're all synthetic hormones. I remember a health and fitness instructor talking about how, you know, a lot of young women clients who are, you know, only eat organic or only natural, but will shove stuff like the contraceptive pill in their body. I think they're into the paleo diet, so I don't think synthetic hormones are what cavemen ingested. I don't know if I said this earlier, but there's also environmental impacts we'll be looking at in the show. But getting to the point, not only is the contraceptive pill in a predominantly hormonal type that it's used classified as a class 1 carcinogenic, there's a whole lot of other potential food risks. This comes from the American FDA, or Food and Drug Administration. The potential increase in cancer, potential increase in blood clotting, heart attacks and stroke. The risk of blood clots is highest for overweight women taking the pill. Headaches and migraines, gallbladder or liver problems, including benign tumours, increased blood pressure, weight gain, mood changes, with some women experiencing symptoms of depression and anxiety, nausea, cramping, irregular bleeding, or spotting between periods, breast tenderness, and affect digestive health, and may cause nutrition deficiencies, including iron and magnesium, which are some of the primary contributors to most diseases. Other factors being like diet, genetics, stress, and toxicity, which, well, with the anxiety and the depression, I don't imagine that helps. How many women out there actually know about these side effects? I mean, some of them have had it given to them since they were at school, and they're just told, take it and you won't get pregnant. Some take it for other reasons, such as acne, etc. In fact, on the blood clots things, I remember a case that I think it was covered by New Zealand 60 Minutes years ago, where a young girl had died from contraceptive use because of a genetic heart defect she shared with her mother. Now, the big thing around it was, of course, the school gave it to her without the parents knowing. The mother wouldn't. If the mother knew, she would go, well, you know, you can't take that, you'd be at risk. And the young girl had ticked the thing not to let her GP be informed. So if he saw that, he would have been like, oh no, you can't take it because of risk. And her friends were like, she only wanted to take it to clear up her acne. And when they were interviewing the person from family planning, you know, she was an older woman who was obviously a hippie during the 70s, you know, going, we all know why young women want to take the contraceptive pill. In my opinion, the way the family planning person, you know, was conducting themselves in the interview, I wouldn't be surprised if it was just like, well, she was an acceptable casualty. But, things like may cause headaches and migraines. I suffer from migraines. I'm pretty sure there's tortures that are far less horrific than migraines. And the fact that some women are just being subjected to that because they've never been told the side effect of the pill, as it's called, is quite astounding. As for the weight gain, there was a survey done a couple of years back where it said that 68% of New Zealand women weren't happy with their body shape. Now, there would be degrees of not happy, but when it comes to the weight gain, some of them might be like, well, if I knew that, I would just cut it out, especially for the larger women who are apparently more at risk of blood clots. And, of course, when it comes to the nutrition deficiencies, we see, the side effects, fatigue, ingestion, muscle pains, sleeping troubles. I found it what was very, very interesting is they had the ad for Inner Health Plus, which is a digestive aid, and it listed all the things that can cause, your inner health, whatever, to be thrown out, such as alcohol, fatty foods and that. And one of them listed for years and years was the pill. That was always part of the ad. But then, they occasionally would update the ad and they took the pill out. Why is that? Also, the depression, anxiety. I suffer from both as well. And I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And the fact that there are potentially tens of thousands of women that are suffering that because they're taking a pill, which they don't know that's one of the side effects. That's just horrific. As I've said many times on the show, men love women. And if you're a guy listening to this and you're like, I'm fine with my wife or partner or girlfriend taking the contraceptive pill and suffering all those effects, or some of them, or, just suffering, is that not cause for reflection, going, what the hell am I doing? I care for this person, but I'm quite happy for them to suffer as long as they don't get pregnant to me. On the show I did put on YouTube called Love and Honor, we talked about fish love. Basically, a guy is fishing and a rabbi goes, why are you doing that? It's because I love fish. And he's like, well, no, you're killing the fish. You're taking them out of the environment, whacking them and then eating them. You don't love them. You love the taste. You're not exactly creating a fish sanctuary for them to live a good life. Basically, are you putting their well-being first? That's something to consider. Now, that, of course, taking the contraceptive pill is her choice. But if you have knowledge of all these bad health stuff she's at risk for, and you're her sexual partner, you have an obligation to say, are you aware of this? And if you're just going to cuck out of it, enjoy the mood swings and weight gain and I have a migraine, you have to be quiet. If you're thinking, well, what are we meant to do then? Well, you might want to look into something like natural family planning, which is centered around working out when she's fertile, ovulating, and avoiding having sex during that period. Because only a very short period of a month where a woman can conceive a child. To be honest, birth control is a huge scam, contraception, as there's only that brief window every month where she can get pregnant. So things like condoms and the pill are not as effective as people think they are. Mainly there's a time woman's not fertile, she can't get pregnant anyway. But so many people get pregnant by using both forms of contraception. There was an episode of Friends when Rachel told Ross that she was pregnant with his child. He was like, wait, we used a condom. And he looked at the box. 99% effective? Why doesn't anyone say anything? It turns out it's actually lower than 99% effective. And even if it was 99%, just think of how many people are having sex at any given time. And if it's in the thousands, your chances of being the 1% rack up. But then we get into women who get pregnant and they don't know it and they're still taking the contraceptive pill. And what are the health effects on the child? Some studies that have looked into this have shown boys who were born under such conditions have smaller genitalia, and there's less of a distance between the genitalia and the anus. which is a big sex difference between men and women. So they haven't fully developed masculinely because of all the estrogen. Other risks, according to conceiveeasy.com, is the effects on limbs, heart and lungs. Besides decreasing levels of hormones that play an important role in the evolution of pregnancy, contraceptive pills can deprive the fetus of part of the vitamins and minerals it needs for normal development. This way, abnormalities in limbs, heart and lungs may appear. It might also cause hermaphrodism, which is development of both sexes. They're predominantly one sex, but develop the genitalia of another. There's also the liver. The liver is another organ of the fetus that can be influenced by components of the birth control pills. The main factor is the poor absorption of beryllium, a waste secretion of the blood's red cells. Instead of being eliminated from the child's body, this product stocks up in the liver. Because of this, the baby may be born with, I don't even know how to pronounce it, genindiced. Basically, I had to look it up. Basically born yellow because my sister has liver problems and she used to go hugely yellow. This is a sign of built-up toxins in the liver. There's also effects on the bladder and prostate. These organs can be deformed and the child may suffer from various affections related to them once he or she grows up. And lastly, there is preeclampsia. This condition consists of the mother having unusually high blood pressure that affects her unborn child equally. Although pregnant women who do not use birth control pills after the moment of conception also suffer from preeclampsia, the incidence is lower than in the case in those who do. So basically, any pregnant woman can have it, but if she's taking birth control pills or have that high estrogen level in her system, then she's more at risk of it. And that estrogen stays in the system for years and years afterwards. Also, just on a side note, there are some STDs, or STIs, whatever you want to call them, that can be passed to unborn children. I remember hearing the story of a father who didn't know why his baby daughter was crying so much. And he talked to a doctor and she had growths that were growing on her mouth and the back of her neck, throat, from some sort of genital wart virus or something like that. But basically the father gave it to the mother and the mother carrying the child gave it to the child. I mean, it seems like this, when you think of the Victorians, and you're like, oh, they were really prudish, you know, what was their hang-up? It was, well, sex was really dangerous to them. Not only was there a lot of STDs around that time, like chlamydia and syphilis, that could drive you mad. If a woman got pregnant, she'd rather end up on the streets, or even if it was from a wealthy family, could bring down the family's prestige and do a lot of damage. So I say the Victorians, who are very Christian, this is why Christians practice sexual discipline, shall we call it. Research shows that the less sexual partners you have, you know, if it's the most happiest marriages are people they're each other's first sexual partners, but of course the more sexual partners you have, the more baggage you have, and maybe stuff like STD may be part of the baggage. Not evangelizing right now, I'm just really trying to tell you some of the facts of life. The rise of feminism went hand in hand with the contraceptive pill, which of course played a big part in the sexual revolution, to avoid pregnancy, because that was one of the big things. If you got pregnant, how were you going to be provided for? Of course, as mentioned before, contraception is far from 100% effective, so we have legions and legions of single mothers. But the birth control pill had a profound effect on society. We've greatly reduced chance of pregnancy, shall we call it. This allowed a lot of women to be in the workforce and continue the workforce. Although I think people missed something very, very important to do with the economy on this. We talk about, well, you know, families could used to survive on one income, but now both parents need to work. Well, the thing is, women went into the workplace anyway. And if you think about the laws of supply and demand, the supply of workers doubled, driving down wages. So the way we talk about it, well, families now need two incomes, nobody thinks, well, since women entered the workplace, doubled the labour, that may have resulted in the needing for two incomes. And to go on another sidetrack about daycare, it's estimated if a child is left in daycare for around 15 hours, give or take, it's not a firm thing, they show the same signs as parental abandonment. Basically, that puts the child under a lot of stress. Don't believe me? Look it up. Also, there's the question of the cost-benefit of working and paying for daycare, because how much of the daycare takes up the pay. Just some food for thought. But right now I've got two topics to wrap up before the show ends. One is the significance, socially speaking, about the World Health Organization classifying it as a Class 1 carcinogen, right up there with smoking and asbestos. I mean, my father was a tradesman and had to be on the asbestos register in case he experienced future health problems, just like my uncle who got exposed to Agent Orange and my cousins who were affected through that. But if the pill is just as carcinogenic, likely to cause cancer, than cigarettes, then what the hell? Why don't we hear about that? I mean, I remember when the World Health thing came out about 10 years ago, and it was on the news for that one night. But I turn it on the TV, and most likely you're going to get an anti-smoking ad. Then what gives? I mean, I'm pretty sure more women take the contraceptive pill than smoke. And of course, if you're smoking and taking the contraceptive pill, oh my God, that's so bad. I really don't want you to get cancer. I remember when I was younger, when the whole smoking is bad for you and can cause cancer and kill you thing was playing out in the States, where you had, the heads of cigarette companies being taken to court and saying, well, they didn't think smoking was particularly bad for you, and how they lost a ton of lawsuits and a ton of money. I just have this feeling, if enough women can be red-pilled, that it'll be the same with birth control, that a lot of women would sue birth control companies, which would in the general public, raise awareness. I mean, I have friends who smoke, and they've got on the cigarette packets, pictures of gross stuff, what happens if you smoke, which doesn't stop them, but why, in the boxes of the pill when prescribed, it doesn't have warnings on it? I'm aware there's probably some women who are listening to this going, well, why are you talking about this topic? You shouldn't have an opinion. I'm really not happy with tens of thousands of women, well, in New Zealand, we're talking millions worldwide, suffering, because that's what we're talking about. Do you have no love or compassion for these women? All I'm really advocating for is that they are told about the risks. I don't mean once. I mean till it's common knowledge, till it's sunken in. Because sometimes people get told stuff, but they don't internalize it. Perfect example are smokers. They go, yeah, I know it's bad for me. It sometimes just doesn't actually dawn on them till it's too late. I mean, I wish more women knew about natural family planning so they didn't have to carpet bomb their uterus with artificial hormones constantly. But of course it requires discipline. I just had an epiphany, so I just looked up online about, deaths attributed to the contraceptive pill. Of course, no surprise, there's no firm statistics, but it's estimated in an article from the Daily Mail. I know, I shouldn't be quoting the Daily Mail, but according to the French government, 20 French women die each year just from blood clots from the contraceptive pill. That's not even getting into stuff like cancer and strokes. And the pill causes they estimate 2,500 non-fatal blood clots. I don't even want to know what that's like. And according to Cosmopolitan magazine, it doesn't offer any statistics, but go here, because 4 out of 5 sexually active women in the United States have taken the pill. According to government data, the news is an 11 on a 10-point scale of no worries to terrifying. So basically very terrifying on how many women could have died because of the contraceptive pill. are they just acceptable casualties and just the normal symptoms of depression and anxiety and weight gain and all that women go through? Is that just fine? All this narrative of women are oppressed, but no, we're quite happy to tolerate that. Don't look into that. Lastly, there is an issue of the contraceptive pill making its way into the waterways and what effect that might be causing species like fish and what that can mean to flow and effect to human beings. Now, full disclosure, there's controversy about the effects. Some people have said it's just like a thimble amount that's been put into a swimming pool, but some others saying there seems to be huge build-up in fish of synthetic drugs and hormones, especially estrogen. This explains the Alex Jones from InfoWars famous rant when he goes, "They're turning the frogs gay." This is partially what he's referring to of the stuff that goes into the water supply. Critics say there's a whole lot of other things which, help contribute, but even if it's just a small contributing factor, it's still contributing. Interestingly, on the concern side is Scientific America. From their article, Birth Control and Water Supply. In 2008, the U.S. Geographical Survey tested water in 9 states across the country and found 85 man-made chemicals, including some medications, were commonly sipping through municipal treatment systems and ending up in our tap water. Another report by the Associated Press found trace amounts of dozens of pharmaceuticals in the drinking water supplies of some 46 million Americans. But according to the survey, such chemicals and medicines are so diluted at levels equal to a thimbleful of an Olympic-sized swimming pool that they do not pose a health threat. But others aren't so sure. Researchers have found evidence that there is extremely diluted concentration of drug residues, that they harm fish, frogs, and other aquatic species, and being shown in labs to impair human cell function. Another section of the article goes, what might be more troubling is the mixture of contaminants and how they might interact to cause health problems. The biggest concern is the stew effect, says Scott Dyer of the Sarah Cloves Water Sentinels program. Trace amounts of this mixed with trace amounts of that can equal what? We don't know. The article finishes with an appeal not to use their toilets and sinks to dispose of unused medications and to opt for the garbage instead, as most modern landfills are lined to keep such contaminants inside. I did read an article that linked to a report on nature.com. I can only pronounce half the title. Transgenerational effects from early developmental exposures to bisomal A or 17A F in, I can't even, it's science language, it's not even English. But the article that linked said, it's strange how even the most ardent environmentalists suddenly go silent when confronted with evidence of how the birth control pill harms aquatic ecosystems. So talking about things that nobody wants to talk about is one of the reasons we don't talk about this big pharma or feminism. There's huge social consequences if a lot of women just all of a sudden binge the pill and bin it, don't put it down the sink. Is it just because it's so part of the modern social fabric that a contrarian like me has to cause trouble by mentioning it? It could have the effect of, the process of de-Christianization of Western societies, like New Zealand. There'd be profound social impacts, including a higher birth rate, which, we wouldn't need all that immigration now, would we? I understand that people really don't want to pull on that thread, but for the sake of millions of women across the Western world, we really, really need to pull on that thread. And if you don't, why is that? All I'm saying is they should know. If they choose to take it afterwards, that's their business. But I want them to make a fully informed choice, and I think a lot of them would reject it if they knew.